For me, preparing for RAAM became my life. For several years, work, training, sleep, that was my life. And if something did not contribute my goal, I ditched it. So everything revolved around this one massive goal, and it took years to get there. So focus on one big thing.
Hello and welcome to the Ronny Leber show, where every week we bring you fascinating guests with inspiring stories of success and overcoming obstacles from the worlds of sports, business and entertainment. To support this channel, please subscribe, turn on the notification bell and hit the like button so that we can deliver you the best content possible.
He's a professor for strategic management at the University of Innsbruck. He was a guest professor and had scientific studies at the Wharton School and the Bocconi University. He is under the top 40 strategy professors in the world, and he's also the author of High Performance Mindset. He's also an extreme athlete because he's just one of about 400 people who finished the Race Across America, the hardest bike race in the world. I'm very happy to have him on the show. Joining us live from Innsbruck, Austria, please welcome, here's Professor Kurt Matzler. Woo!
Hi, thanks for your invitation. It's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure to have you. And also today we'll talk about not only what it takes to build a successful career, how riding the hardest bike race in the world can help you, and also everything, all the learnings around it along your journey, and as well as tons of other stuff that we are here to talk about. But first of all, when you look at your life today and you think back on the journey that you've already had, was that what you had imagined when you were a kid?
Well, looking back at my life, it's pretty interesting and also kind of humbling to see where I started. When I was a kid, I was really into sports. I played soccer, basketball, volleyball. I did decathlon, high jump. And if you had asked me back then that I would end up as a university professor, I wouldn't have imagined it because I was not a very good student at high school. And I discovered my passion for learning and my curiosity when I studied business administration at Innsbruck University. And if you told my younger self that I would become an ultra cyclist racing across America, I would not have believed it. But now I see how discipline and determination I learned from sports became a big part of my academic and cycling adventures. And I have learned in my life that life is full of surprises, and embracing them, especially the ones I learned from my sports days, has made my journey pretty awesome.
Wow. And just listening to you and also, of course, to your journey, it sounds like high performance plays a high role in that. I mean, even your book, as we saw, is the high performance mindset. What does high performance mean to you?
Well, it's not just about reaching specific goals. It's a commitment to ongoing improvement and the pursuit of excellence in everything I do. It's a mindset that motivates me to always challenge my own limits and aim for the best possible outcomes. And that involves dedication, discipline, and the willingness to go above and beyond what's expected. So it's about stepping out of my comfort zone all the time.
That's very fascinating. Also, you said one thing that really is stuck with me was it's easier to fulfill 100% of what you're set out to do than just 95%. That at first it sounds contradictory, but how is that?
Well, Mahatma Gandhi once said that strength does not come from a physical capacity. It comes from an indomitable will. So it's about discipline. And, when you have a full-time job, training for a race across America is very hard. 15 to 25 hours a week for several years, you have to be very, very disciplined. And it's easier to hold to a principle 100% of the time than just 95% of the time. Means for me that when my training plan says 7 hours, right, and I come back after my training after 6 hours and 45 minutes, I put an extra round or right up or down the street in front of my house until I have 7 hours full. If my plan says 3 hours sober training on the indoor bike at 6 o'clock in the morning, I get up at 6 o'clock in the morning and I am on my indoor bike not for 2 hours and 58 minutes and not for 2 hours and 59 minutes, but for exactly 3 hours, because it's easier to stick to a principle 100% than 95%. The first small deviation from a training plan or from a principle, the first exception, that usually is difficult. The second one is a little bit easier. And the more often you violate a principle, the harder it is to keep it in the future. So morale erodes very slowly at the beginning and then suddenly very quickly.
Wow, that sounds a bit like if you put it into a different context. For example, if you have a car and then you have a brand new car and the car gets a first scratch and you're like, oh my God, it has a scratch, and you may be upset or you're freaking out or whatever it is. The second scratch is like, well, okay. The third or fourth scratch, it's just a car. In a way.
Exactly. It's a very good example. And if there is a first scratch, you have to repair it immediately. Because if you don't do that, you will accept the second scratch more easily. And the third scratch doesn't matter.
Okay, that's very fascinating. Another thing actually that kind of sounded through when you were talking about this principle, that in order to actually really fulfill 100% of what you're set out to do, it's really important to have your why in place, isn't it?
Exactly. Viktor Frankl, who survived 4 concentration camps in Nazi Germany, has made a very interesting observation there. He observed that prisoners who still had a project to finish, still had a goal, still had a why, or still had hopes to see their family again, they had a higher chance to survive than those who had lost all their hopes. And he wrote, those who have a why to live can bear with almost anyhow. And that means, when it's getting really hard and you have a why that is greater than you, something that goes beyond yourself, then that is the source of strength. So having a why is a very important motivational factor.
And that's fascinating, to really have a why, to really have something to look out for, because I once read a study that, for example, when people are in an elderly home, that they are much more likely to die after Christmas than before Christmas. Because it's still going to be, I'm going to see all the family. Like, they're looking out for that time when they're going to see everybody. And then afterwards, they're ready to let go. But before, it's more like, no, I still have a reason to live.
Mm-hmm. And, in my case, during Race Across America, we did it as a charity project. We raised donations to eradicate polio. And when it got really, really hard, I always remembered what my why is. And my why, or the why of our team, was we ride so that others can walk. We do this grueling race to collect donations to eradicate polio. And this thought brought me back on my bike.
Wow, beautiful. And we'll get into the Race Across America in just a moment. Before that, also to give everybody an understanding, because you said you were doing Race Across America basically besides your main job, which is to be a university professor, not just any university professor. You're in the top 40 in the world in your field, which is an incredible achievement. Before we actually get into the academic competition that there is, in a way, for everybody who's not in the academic world, give us an understanding of how the job of a professor looks like, and also how to become one of the best professors in the world in your field.
First, it's a privilege to be a professor. It's really awesome for a number of reasons. Imagine this: you get paid to be a continuous learner. That's a privilege. They pay you for your passion. And as a professor, you dive deep into stuff you're really passionate about, you're interested in. And it's like being on a never-ending quest for knowledge, and you're paid for it. And you know what the best part is? You hang around with young, energetic minds with the students, sharing what you know and trying to contribute to your students' lives and careers. That's super rewarding. It's like being a guide for the next generation of leaders. And these bright students, they challenge you every day. So I'm really thankful for.
I, I got a
Yes,
question actually that just came up out of that, because as a professor, or of course in academia or as in the university world, you're always in the theoretical realm in a way. So you're basically you're creating theories and theses and all those kind of things. But you're also in the business world because you're a professor in strategy and also in a business context. How close are you also with what's actually happening in, let's say it a little bit provocative, reality, or like in what's really happening in practice, and how
that
important is
is
that
a
also?
it's a very good question, and especially for a business professor, this is a very important question. I have founded 2 or 3 companies in my life, and I'm still partner of a consulting firm, IMP, which is an international consulting firm. And that allows me to understand what the challenges of managers are, what the problems are, how they can be tackled, and working together with the practitioners. That really allows me to understand their problems and challenges and bring these also to the classroom. And a professor who has never been inside a company, what is he talking about to students? He talks about something he has never seen.
Or read in a book or something, and also of course you're right in touch with students, with people who are just starting out on their journey, and also which brings you close to them, and we will also profit from that later on in this interview as well. One more thing before we actually go into Race Across America: academic competition, because top 40 professor in your field in the world. How I mean, when you think about top 40, you think about maybe about music, about the charts, you think about athletes that are competing with each other and so on. How is that in academia? How does that work as a professor?
That's a good question. It's like a very long bike race, like a marathon. It's comparable to the race across America. You do research for several years, you work on a project for several years, and then you may be able to publish it or not. So it's like spending years battling through a research project. And in this academic world, it's often said publish or perish. So you have to publish, and publishing papers, academic papers in scientific journals, that is pretty tough because the best academic journals reject up to 95% of all articles that are submitted. So it's very, very competitive. And it's also about applying for research funds, getting attractive positions at a good university. So it's very, very competitive. But it's a blend of competing and working together that keeps the academic wheels turning.
Could you say that the Nobel Prize is the highest pinnacle of achievement that you can get in your field?
I think so, but as a business professor, I think our contribution is too small
Okay.
for such a Nobel Prize. You should be an economist. They are discussing bigger ideas than business professors.
Well, let's see. Who knows? I mean, let's see what's going to happen in the future. Let's turn it. On the other hand, Race Across America. Race Across America is basically is eating Tour de France for breakfast. Yeah, so it's basically Tour de France is what many people know it in the summer. 3 weeks. It's always called the hardest bike race in the world, but it's not, because Race Across America is even Tour de France on very like on a different scale, because you're riding from the coast to coast in the US and basically doing this in a time limit of 12 days, not like the Tour de France in 21 stages. You really have no stages at all. It's just basically getting yourself on the other side. So maybe you can put this into more context, actually. Race Across America.
Well, it is the hardest bike race in the world. As you said, less than 400 finishers, less than 50% who start the race finish it. It's about 5,000 kilometers, 40,000 kilometers of climbing. It's 12 states, 4 time zones, 2 deserts, 3 mountain ranges. maximum temperature in the desert up to 50 degrees, rain and freezing temperatures in the Rocky Mountains sometimes. I rode through a tornado in Colorado, 11 days of sleep deprivation, maximum of 2 hours of sleep per day, pain, technical breakdowns. So per day, I did on average 432 kilometers. On my bike, 3,800 meters of climbing, about 50,000 pedal strokes, about on average 13,000 calories burned, and about 14.5 liters of sweat lost. So that's the race across America.
Sounds like a fun walk in the park in a way, right, when you describe it. But so I'm going to ask, you were there, the cycling professor, so to say, and
Yes.
you already have you're not an extreme athlete as a job. You have a job, a very successful job. How did you get the idea that, and you're over 50 as well, how did you get the idea in your 50s to ride the race across America?
I started cycling about 25 years ago. I did some races, and about 10 years ago, I developed a passion for long distances. So I started with 200 kilometers. Then I thought 300 must be possible in one day. And then I thought maybe 500 are possible. And then I participated in a charity ride, and that was 630 kilometers nonstop across Austria. And we raised funds to eradicate polio. And that really brought me into ultra cycling and combining it with fundraising. And then there was an American who founded a team for the Race Across America. And he was looking for a racer. One was still missing, and we were put in contact. So I was on that team, and we raced 4 times as a team of 4. And then 4 or 5 years ago, I thought, well, I could do also race across Italy, which is 800 kilometers nonstop. And I thought if I can do that, I could try race around Austria, which is very tough. It's 2,200 kilometers nonstop around Austria. And I thought if I can do that, I could try RAAM solo. And after finishing Race Across America, I made the decision. Actually, I made it a little bit earlier, Race around Austria. That was my task for Race Across America. So it's not something that comes out of the blue. You are pushing yourself, you're pushing the limits. And then one day you realize it could be possible. And once you are able to imagine something, it can become possible.
So you had the idea, and it's like a little seed, basically, that you put water on it, and suddenly it grows, and then
Yes.
it's just a tiny little, let's say, a tiny little grass or plant in the beginning, which is very vulnerable. But the more it grows, the more it actually manifests inside of you. Is that a fair comparison?
Exactly. So you start small, and then you grow and you grow. You push your limits. And then one day you see it's doable, or it could be doable. And then that day, when you understand, when you see it could be doable, you have already made your decision.
So when you basically then, I know it from marathons. I guess it's probably somehow similar at the Race Across America, or you just go to the website and you click here I am, and you sign up and you put in your you pay the fee, or how is that? And how was that feeling when you actually did that?
Well, there's a little story how I made the decision. That was in 2018 or 2019 when we did Race Across America as a team of 4. And we were raising funds to eradicate polio. And we were at the start, and there was a press meeting, and I was there, and I was interviewed. And we had a running joke in our team. Bob McKenzie said, if we this year raise 1 million or more, Kurt next time does Race Across America solo.
He volunteered you?
I took it as a joke, and I said, yes, okay. And then I was at a press meeting And the journalist said, "Is it true that you are riding solo if your team raises more than 1 million this time?" And I had no choice. I had to say yes. And I saw Bob with a grin, and he already knew at that time we already had 1 million. He did not tell me. Now I officially said I publicly committed to doing it solo, so that was the decision.
Wow, that's very fascinating. Also, it actually also states the importance of a public commitment, doesn't it?
Exactly. And it was already in my mind, so thinking about should I do it or not, and that moment then made the decision for me.
Wow, that's very incredible. And then, but that was in the late 2010s, and you raised, I believe, in 2022, if that's
Exactly.
correct. So
Yes.
how does the preparation work? You already, of course, you didn't start from scratch because you already had been there 4 times in a team.
Yes.
But this is totally different again to really, now it's 4 times as long because you're not
Yes.
just splitting it up. Before you're doing everything by yourself. How long does the preparation take and how do you get yourself there, not just physically, but also mentally?
Yes. I was already in a very, very good condition. I was very fit and still needed about 3 years of very focused training. Otherwise, I would say you need at least 5 years of training. And 5 years of training means at least 20 to 25,000 kilometers per year. That's 15 to 25 hours of training per week.
That's about
That's
2,000 kilometers per month, basically.
Yes, and that's to get physically fit. But I would say only 1/3 is physical fitness, another third is mental fitness, and 1/3 is the team. You have a support team, and it's very, very important that you have a very good team that supports you. So it's not only about physical fitness, it's also about mental toughness.
When you're saying 1/3 is physical, 1/3 is mental, 1/3 is team, how would you translate that into a business context or into for somebody who wants to pursue their own venture, who says, hey, I want to create something? How would that apply to me? How would that apply in the business world?
Well, first, I think physical fitness translated to a company, that is the resources, the competences a company has, the skill it has. They are absolutely needed. Absolutely no question. You need unique core competences. You need to differentiate yourself from the competitors. So that would be the physical
The
fitness.
foundation, so to say.
Yeah, and then second thing is your ambition, your mindset. And I think that is really the driving force. And the team, you never can achieve something alone. You need people around you that support you, that challenge you. And creating a high performance team is extremely important, also in companies.
Wow. And also, of course, being a team player as well.
Exactly.
Let's talk mindset. How do you prepare your mind? Hey, sometime soon you're going to go on a bike ride, but it's not going to be just around the block or just 200 kilometers. It's going to be 5,000 kilometers. How do you get your mind there? And it's called with all extreme conditions that there are along the way.
Yes. There is one big difference between the best athletes and average athletes. The best athletes, they use the power of visualization. And that is one of the most important tools for performance improvement and motivation. And visualization means you try to visualize how will it be when I have achieved my big goal? How will it be when I cross the finish line in Annapolis? How will it be when I hand over the check with the donation? So that is very important, especially when the going gets tough. And that visualization must be very clear. You must feel it, you must smell it, you must taste it. And every time it gets hard, you should try to think of it, how it will be when you have achieved your goal. That gives you a a boost of motivation. You must feel the excitement of successfully fulfilling your performance goal. And it's a very powerful tool. So that's one thing. Another thing is there are many challenges in everything we do, especially in the race across America. So one technique to deal with
Just
challenges.
before you go into that, because I want to stay on the visualization part for just a second, because I think it's very, very important. Because it's not just when you are actually pursuing Race Across America, it's really in everything, in every endeavor that you're actually putting out yourself out in life. That when you already visualize yourself there, when you already visualize success, because there will be obstacles along the way, there will be challenges coming up, and that you really get over the hump that's pulling you, because you already have prepared your mind. Your mind has seen that this is possible. Then, as you said, when the going gets tough, the tough get going, because then you already are ready to go there.
Mm-hmm.
And now take us on the second thing.
Yes. Another thing is, it's very important to have those big goals and visualize them. But at the same time, you also have to define very small, quick wins. So always try to visualize how it will be when you have achieved your big goal, but never think about how far you still have to go. If you in Kansas start thinking still 2,836 kilometers to go, that leads to frustration. So instead, define milestones and small, quick wins that give you motivation in the sense of achievement. In my case, I divided those 5,000 kilometers in 11 stages. I booked hotels. And so when I started in Oceanside, my first objective was to reach Siloam after 540 kilometers, because there I had my first sleep break for 2 hours. So that daily stages, I broke down into 9-hour units, because every 9 hours, my follow vehicle exchanged and I got 15 minutes of break. And I then broke those 9 hours down to 3-hour units, because every 3 hours, I got 5 minutes of break. And those 3 hours, I broke down into 45 minutes units, because every 45 minutes, I got a little bottle of liquid nutrition. And that little bottle of liquid nutrition got a very important symbolic meaning for me, because when I heard the follow vehicle approaching with this little bottle of liquid nutrition, I knew another 45 minutes done on my journey to the other side of the continent. So defining those small, quick wins is extremely important because they give you a sense of achievement. You see that you're making progress. Otherwise, just having these big goals without those milestones, they seem impossible to achieve.
Wow! So it also became like an anchor. The thing with the every 45 minutes, you heard the following vehicle to approach you, and that was always that boost that you already conditioned yourself. And
Exactly.
How important is it actually when you're doing something? And I can only imagine that basically riding a bike is, on the one hand, it's a very repetitive task, because you're doing it over and over and over and over. And basically everything you do in life is going to be, at some point, it's going to become repetitive. But it's not about doing one big thing once. It's really about doing all the little things over and over and over again in order to really get great at it, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yes, and that reminds me of the idea of marginal gains, because we tend to focus on the big things and underestimate the importance of small things, the importance of small improvements. If you break down everything you can think of and then improved it by 1% only, you will get a significant increase when you put all those things together. And what is needed is an obsession for continuous improvement, For example, after every race I did, I sat down with my crew chief and we discussed every little detail. What can we do differently? What can we improve? And that becomes an obsession. And we found many surprising details. If you, for example, shave your arms, does not sound so spectacular, but that can save you a few seconds over 40 kilometers. That has been tested in the wind tunnel. Converted to the RAAM distance, that's theoretically just under 40 minutes. My helmet is 50 seconds faster than a conventional road helmet over 40 kilometers. That's 80 minutes calculated over the entire course. Or a cleaned and properly oiled chain makes a difference, aero socks, and so on and so on. So if you are obsessed with those little details and those little improvements, they can really make a big difference in the end.
Incredible. And now that you're saying that reminded me also, I'm sure you followed it. In 2019, there was the Ineos 159 challenge in Vienna, where Eliud Kipchoge became the first human being to run a marathon in under 2 hours, and still the only one. And all those marginal gains that you're talking about, also they were putting new concrete in the Prater Hauptallee where they were actually doing it. They were building a steep curve at one of the turning points that would save him some seconds. And so they were actually spraying the trees. There are 2,500 trees along the way, just that the leaves wouldn't fall down. They had everything, basically. Everything was planned and really taken care of, also to have the best wind conditions for him, the weather conditions, that everything is perfect. And so it's all those little things. It's 1% there, 2% there, 3% there. But
that's the difference. That's the difference between good and great.
Wow. It is, absolutely. Or outstanding even in this way.
Yeah.
So, but all of this requires a lot of preparation.
Yes.
And basically, we all know that sometimes you basically just want to jump into something. You just want to, hey, let's just do it. I'm just gonna wing it. But it doesn't work if you're doing a race across America, or if you want to achieve something really big. How was your preparation? How did you prepare for that? And also, what was different, how you prepared compared to some others that prepared and did not finish?
Yes, that is a very good question, because less than 50% of all who start a race can finish it, and less than 30% of the rookies finish the race. And, I started to read everything I found about Race Across America, watched every video I found, I read every interview I found, and I was so surprised. Why is it that only less than 30% of the rookies can finish this race? So I made a list of all reasons that lead to a DNF. And when I had... Yes, DNF did not finish. And when I had that list, I realized, wow, many are not able to finish this race because they have a number of problems, and these problems are related to the strategy they adopt. So there is the superstar, the RAAM superstar is Christoph Strasser from Austria. He won this race 6 times, and he holds the record. 7.5 days. Can you imagine that? And he has very tough strategy. His strategy is he rides for 36 hours until he has his first sleep break for 20 minutes. And then he does another 36 hours or so until he has another short sleep break. So the idea is every time you stop, you lose time. And try to sleep as little as possible. And this is what, in my view, everyone copied. And I then applied a totally different strategy. My idea was many of these causes of did not finish were related to the strategy because they lead to sleep deprivation, Schirmer's neck, which is a condition that describes that your neck muscles fail from fatigue. They cannot support your head anymore. Digestion problems, knee problems, etc. So all these problems come from this very tough strategy. So I applied another strategy, which was...
And by the way, because you said you applied another strategy, which wasn't it also like, oh my God, now here comes a professor and he's doing something totally out of what now everybody has accepted as the norm, and this is totally crazy?
Sometimes it needs an outsider to see that you can do things in a different way, and I was that kind of outsider. I'm not a professional cyclist. I've never been. I'm a university professor. I'm 54 years old, And back to my strategy. My strategy was I do not ride more than 20 hours per day. I sleep at least 2 hours per day. I have a lot of breaks. And that, of course, meant at the beginning of the race, I was falling back. I was behind. And my idea was that by having more breaks, my body recovers better. And that's my idea was in the second part of the race, through better recovery, I have more strength, I have more power, I have less mental problems, and I can catch up. And that's actually what happened. And I ended on the podium of the race. In my age category, I ranked third and sixth overall, which for me was an unbelievable success.
Which is incredible, of course, and it is, because I don't know what your goals were before, but for me, having ran 2 marathons, it's always just, of course, you want to be better than the one before in a way, but on the other hand, just doing your first one, you want to finish. You just want to see how far you can take your body, and also when we were talking about that, how did you anticipate all of the challenges coming up? Because you said on the one hand, you made a list. Yeah, you made a list of all the things why people did not finish. So you went on the list, and as far as I read, also you didn't stop there. You actually went also to create solutions for that. But also, how did you, besides the list why people didn't finish, how did you anticipate all of the extreme conditions that are ahead of you?
Yes, that's a good question. I applied 2 very interesting mental techniques called fact labeling and reframing. Fact labeling means, the race across America, that is very, very, very challenging. And, riding through the desert, crossing the Rocky Mountains, Kansas, Missouri, 1,000 kilometers straight, that is really challenging. And what I did was I tried to also visualize these difficulties. And for many, these are really big difficulties, and many are really afraid of these challenges. And by labeling your worries, putting them on paper, that eases your mind, and it also improves your performance. It's called fact labeling. Professor, for example, Ramirez is his name. He found that students who wrote down their anxieties for a few minutes before a test, when they have test anxiety, they make 45% fewer mistakes compared to those who didn't. So just labeling those anxieties makes a big difference.
So when you're saying, before you go to the second technique, when you're saying about labeling, also you visualized the problems.
Exactly.
That means
how difficult will it be when I ride in the desert when it's 50 degrees hot? How will it be when it rains on the Wolf Creek Pass, which is 3,300 meters high? How hard will it be through Kansas when there is a lot of wind and it's really boring? So I really try to also visualize these difficulties. And once you visualize them or talk about them, they lose their horror. And that really eases your mind. So that is one outcome of fact labeling. And then I did another trick, and that was really helpful. I tried to turn those difficulties into positive challenges. So I tried to redefine problems as something positive that can be very helpful. There is also very interesting research on this. For example, it was found that students who saw task anxiety as something positive did better on tests. So reframe difficulties into positive challenges improves your performance. And that worked so well for me. For example, I was really looking forward to being in the desert when I started in Oceanside, because I knew when I'm there, going through the heat, and I survived that, check, done. A very important milestone achieved. And when I came out of the desert, I was looking forward to climb the Wolf Creek Pass, because I knew it's an important test for me. And when I'm on the Wolf Creek Pass, check, done, another milestone. And so I could overcome all great difficulties, and that really helped me.
Well, that's fantastic. And to do this reframing, it's really just when you are, for example, right now, here it's freezing. We have snow outside in Vienna, and it's beautiful. I'm right now training for a marathon, so I need to go out to run. I need to go out to run. And if it's minus something, it's not necessarily the first instinct that you say, yay, I want to go out to run. But then on the other hand, you really need to mentally get yourself in state to be, yay, I want to do that. I'm excited about it, and to really get yourself excited to not just go out to run, but do maybe 20 kilometers or something in the snow.
Yeah, exactly. What doesn't kill you makes you stronger. And I had some very tough trainings, very long, very hard, especially in spring when it was raining, it was dark, it was very cold. And when I had such a training, I thought, well, if I can do that, it makes me harder. It makes me tougher. It makes me stronger. So I saw all those difficulties also as a way. It's a part of the game. That is part of the game. So it belongs to RAAM.
And especially, I think, then at the race, it's going to show how you prepared. It's going to show, because it's always easy to say, I'm going to skip today. I'm not going to do it. Or I once had a conversation with Benjamin Reich, who is a double Olympic champion, and he was a skier, and he said, when he didn't do all his runs, all his training in the summer, nobody would see then. Nobody would notice, but everybody could see the results in the winter. So it's really doing what is necessary in private, basically, to then shine on the big stage in a way. Mm-hmm. You said motivation, inspiration, and goals haven't brought anyone to the finish. What does it need?
Yeah. Having big dreams, getting inspired, and setting goals are awesome, but they won't get you to the finish line by themselves. So you need a sidekick called discipline. It's the everyday grind, sticking to the plan, pushing through even when you don't feel like it. That's the real deal that turns your dreams into actual accomplishments. So it's you need the motivation and inspiration. It's important, it's necessary, but it's not sufficient, of course.
How do you build discipline? Because if somebody's out there and says, yeah, I know I should do this more often, or yeah, I know, but I just can't, or I'm just not the disciplined type of person. How do you build it? Because it also is tied in a way with self-confidence, I believe. It's also with self-worth, all those kind of things. Mm-hmm. So how do you build discipline?
Well, first, focus. For me, preparing for RAAM became my life. For several years, work, training, sleep. That was my life. And if something did not contribute my goal, I ditched it. So everything revolved around this one massive goal, and it took years to get there. So focus on one big thing. And then discipline, that was my secret weapon. It's easier to hold to your principles 100% of the time than 98% of the time, as we just discussed. And discipline, that can be a real game changer in life. So you need smart goals, but discipline is like a muscle. It also tires. So set smart goals, specific, measurable, achievable, realistic, and time-bound. and be sparing with your discipline. Track your progress meticulously. Daily records, they kept me motivated during my training for RAAM. How much did I train? How did I improve my performance, etc.? Also make clear plans. Vague intentions won't cut it. My training plans were very specific, very detailed. They said next Tuesday at 5 o'clock, 3 hours on the bike here or there. So it must be very, very detailed. Otherwise, it's just too easy to skip a training session. And I think a very simple thing is habits and routines. Create routines without thinking long and hard. You just do the things. And that saves a lot of mental energy and helps you get where you want to go.
Also, I heard once, because there's only a limited amount of mental energy that we have every day, that, for example,
Exactly.
Albert Einstein, he basically had the same outfit for every day, but just, of course, in different versions. But so he didn't need to think, what I'm gonna wear today. Or Steve Jobs, always with his black turtleneck sweater, for
Yeah.
example. It's just it saves some energy compared to if you always every morning, what am I gonna wear today? I have no idea. And then you use up half of the energy that's already there.
Yeah, there is a very interesting study about this. Researchers studied employees that have daily morning routines, or every morning the same routines, and they tested how they performed at work. And those employees that had daily morning routines, they reported more mental calmness at work. They made more progress. They achieved their goals, and they were more successful at work. Exactly for the reason you just mentioned. We have limited mental energy, and if we waste that already in the morning for mundane decisions, we have less mental energy for important things later at work.
How is your morning routine?
That is getting up, having light breakfast, and then on the bike for 1 or 2 hours. And that really helps me first to get to do my training. And during my training, I have an indoor bike, and most of my training is low heart rate training. And that means that I can read, for example, while I'm on my indoor bike. So what I do is 1 or 2 hours every day in the morning on my indoor bike, doing my reading work for my office. So I read papers, case studies, academic articles. Overall, I read about 20 to 25 books every year on my indoor bike, and I don't know how many thousands of pages of academic articles.
Wow, incredible. So it's really finding also something that supports you and that also makes you stronger, not just physically, but also mentally, and also makes you grow. That's fantastic. Let's shift gears a little bit, because for someone who's just starting out, or who's standing at a career transition right now, one thing that you said was hire for attitude, train for skills. What does it mean? And also, how can knowing this be useful to somebody who is just looking for his next venture?
Yeah, that's about creating high performance teams. You may know Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. He once said, if you want to build a ship, don't drum up people to collect wood, and don't assign them tasks and work, but rather teach them to long for the endless immensity of the sea. So the essence is find people that share the passion for your goals and that share your values. The traditional way of hiring is we define the qualifications and the skills people need for a position. And then we hire people with the best skills. And then we try to train change their attitudes and values. That does not work. You cannot change values and attitudes. Do it the other way around. Hire for attitude, hire people that share your passion for the goals, that share your values, and Second criterion is skills. So hiring a team is more than filling individual positions. You have to try to build a whole that is greater than the sum of its parts. And very important to do that is find people that share your values and your goals.
Wow. So basically, also, if I put it into an individual context, it's really about first working on my attitude before I work on my skills to really get
Yes.
my mindset in place, and
Yeah,
then the skills are gonna follow.
exactly.
Wow. One other thing, actually, in a professional context that came to mind was because you mentioned that you wrote for basically for eradicating polio, and then because it was from the Rotary, and you're very active also in the Rotary, and so what came to mind to me, what role in order to progress professionally or in anything do the people around you have? What role does networking play for you?
Um, it's it's really really important. So there is a very simple rule: always try to hire people that are better than you are, because these are the people that you can learn from, that inspire you. I think that's a very important role, and the network around you is important for a number of reasons. First, um, you have to surround yourself with people that are at least equal to you regarding your skills, regarding their abilities, but also people that are not yes sayers. You know, you need people around you that speak up, that challenge you, that contradict you, and that help you to see things also from different perspectives.
Mm, very beautiful. There's this saying that basically you're the average of the five people that you spend the most time with, and obviously you want those people to be in some level already there where you want to be. Because if you, another saying, if you're the smartest person in the room, you're in the wrong room. So if basically it might feel nice for a moment, but
That is very nice. Yes,
not
absolutely.
not for a long time. So what's next for you? Because race across America, check. And you already have your next race planned out.
Yes, my next race is a race around Poland next year. That's also the World Championships in ultra cycling. It's 3,600 kilometers around Poland, and again, combining it with a fundraising to eradicate polio. So that's my next big project.
Wow. What's one piece of advice that you would like to give to somebody who's just starting out on their journey?
You know, I came across a very interesting concept framework. It's called Ikigai from Japan, and that's a concept that helps you to find joy and purpose in life through a balance of four elements. So, what you love, what you're good at, what the world needs, and what you can be paid for. So, in other words, Ikigai is a sweet spot where your passions, skills, societal needs, and financial stability intersect.
Oh,
And it's
that's
a
very
holistic approach to finding fulfillment and meaning in one's life. So these are the four questions when you start a career, when you start something new. What is it that I really love? What is it I'm really good at? What is it the world needs? And can I make my living with it? So these would be the
wow.
four questions.
It's very fascinating. Who is somebody that you admire or look up to?
Oh, I just read Arnold Schwarzenegger's new book, Be Useful. It's a fascinating book. It describes his journey from a bodybuilder in Austria to a Hollywood star, eventually a political leader. He rocked the bodybuilding scene. He jumped into acting and became the Terminator. He didn't stop there. He became the governor of California. So it's like he's an unstoppable force. Plus, he's into fitness, does business stuff, and charity projects. So really fascinating life, a fascinating biography, and I think we can learn a lot from him.
I read the book as well, and it's fantastic. I can absolutely double down on that. What's the best book you ever read and why?
Oh, that's a difficult question. I read about 30 to 40 books a year, but I love biographies, and one of the best biography was Steve Jobs' biography.
Wow.
For 2 or 3 reasons. He was a visionary. Imagine creating stuff like iPhones and iPads and everything he invented. He changed our lives. He was the comeback king. He got fired from Apple in the 90s. But did he give up? No, he bounced back, founded Pixar, the Toy Story.
Yeah.
And then he returned to Apple to save the company and make it even cooler. And then he was an outside of the box thinker. Think different was Jobs' mantra. So he was really fascinating.
Challenging the status quo.
Yes.
Absolutely. Wow. Amazing. So since our time has already come almost to an end, if somebody got inspired, if somebody would like to learn more or know more about you, where can they find you? And of course, I'm also going to link the book, The High Performance Mindset.
Well, I think the best way to find me is on social media, LinkedIn, Facebook. So I every day check LinkedIn. So connect via LinkedIn and we are in contact.
Oh, fantastic. Very, very nice. Any last 30-second thought that you would like to leave us with?
Well, I think limits exist only in our mind. If you can imagine something, you can achieve it. And it's all about the mindset.
Wow, beautiful. Thank you so much. Thank you for being with us and thank you for all your insights and inspiration. One more time, give it up. Kurt Matzler.
Thank you.
Thank you for sticking with us until the end. To make this content even more valuable for you, please leave a comment below and share your thoughts, and also share this video with somebody you care about who absolutely needs to see this. Thank you very much. Have an outstanding day and see you next time.